You're listening to 88.3 FM Little Rock. Hello, this is Tracy Crain, and you're tuned in to the KABF Health and Wellness Program. Tonight, we turn our attention to the environment, more specifically to a very special program that is geared toward helping community members. It's a very unique program. It was founded by a very special person. Her name is Stami Paul. She lives in Cleveland, and she is joining us tonight to kind of discuss some of the work that she has in progress. Hi, Stami. Are you there?
I am. Hi, Tracy. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Well, thanks for having me. Look forward to talking to you.
Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
As you mentioned, I'm founded and I run a nonprofit organization. I do this on a volunteer basis on the side. My full-time career is in corporate America, so this is something that I really try to focus on as much as possible to kind of balance life and work. And I've been doing this for about 3 years, actually going on 3 years. And so what we do is we operate an organization that helps promote graffiti art and promoting the art and the artists through positive, approved commission projects in the community. The main focus on our organization is to find opportunities where we can promote graffiti in a way that helps revitalize communities, working with either public or private communities, community organizations, and often even now in our stream, we're getting a lot of companies that are wanting to do some graffiti artwork in their companies to drive engagement with their employees. But that's really the essence of the program. We use this as a way to gain some momentum, bring community together, and to fund revenue for art scholarships for underserved youth. And that's really the back end of our mission. So while we promote the art and the artists and revitalizing communities in urban areas, we drive fundraising for art scholarships through the Cleveland Institute of Art for some of our underserved youth in the community.
That's fantastic. Some of this work that you're doing is incredible, and I applaud you for all that you're doing on behalf of the community and the members there in your area. It's a fascinating program. And as we get started here, I would like to take a minute to actually define what graffiti is for our listening audience. How would you define graffiti?
Well, graffiti is, I would give the same answer as when people answer the question, how do you define a piece of art? Everybody has a different opinion of it. Even if it's a very famous artist and piece from history, you'll still get people that admire it and others that really don't like it or appreciate it. With graffiti, I look at it the same way. There's obviously very many different facets of graffiti, from perceived or real vandalism to what we would call tagging, and there's a lot of different perceptions and stereotypes of where that may come from. But from my perspective, graffiti has a really deep social and economic kind of voice and expression and political expression as well in our society. It's constant no matter where you go around the world, whether you're in Asia or South America or Europe or the United States. You're going to find very similar themes, but specific to either that specific artist or the society that the graffiti art is located. Often people don't even like calling it graffiti if in fact they're doing a commission or an approved project. They call it street art or muraling or even other terms. But when we decided to name this organization Graffiti HeArt, it was really to put it out there and to showcase that no matter what the stigma or what your perception is and opinion is of graffiti, we want to bring it forward to be able to commission it on any type of canvas and wall and school and company building and house where the clients want to kind of send a message and bring in a different type of feel in that space.
Okay, excellent. One of the things that I was reading here sort of matches a lot of what you were just saying, and it kind of goes into it in a little more detail, and I want to share this with you. This is something I was reading online. It says that graffiti is the writing or drawings that have been scribbled, scratched, or painted illicitly on a wall or other surface, often in a public place. Graffiti range from simple written words to elaborate wall paintings, and they have existed since ancient times, with examples dating back to Egypt, Greece, and the Roman Empire. In modern times, paint, particularly spray paint and marker pens, have become the most commonly used graffiti materials. In most countries, marking or painting properly without the property owner's consent is considered defacement and vandalism, which is punishable by law. Graffiti may also express underlying social and political messages, which is exactly what you're saying, and a whole genre of artistic expression is based upon spray paint graffiti styles. Within hip-hop culture, graffiti have evolved alongside hip-hop music and other elements. Unrelated to hip-hop graffiti, gangs use their own form of graffiti to mark territory or to serve as an indicator of gang-related activities. Controversies that surround graffiti continue to create disagreement among city officials, law enforcement, and writers who wish to display and appreciate work in public locations. There are many different types and styles of graffiti. It is a rapidly developing art form whose value is highly contested and rivaled by many authorities, while also subject to protection, sometimes within the same jurisdiction. So it sounds like it's a real can of worms. Because you, on one side, you have a very legal element there. It kind of really prohibits the expression of that art. And it sounds to me like what you're trying to do with your program is sort of redirect it, if you will, to a more positive purpose. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct. And, our focus is all on the commissioned and approved projects. However, the way in which this idea even came into my head was based on more than not the illegal or the non-commissioned work that you see in every place or in major cities and so forth. But it was really around appreciation of the art, of the creativity on some of the graffiti that I've witnessed in my travels, and the appreciation grew to the point where it's how do I get some of that commission in my house? And while it has the different can of worms that you refer to, when folks reach out to Graffiti HeArt, how do we address or prevent or catch the folks that are doing the graffiti on our bridges or whatnot? We're not here to, per se, catch the graffiti artists. We're here to help provide an avenue to build some positive color in spaces and canvases where the community sees the payoff, sees the impact that it can do. So we've had people contact us about, how do we catch the graffiti artists? And I said, well, I can't help you with that, but if you're going to keep rolling gray paint over the graffiti under your bridge, you're spending a lot of time and money and frustration. Why don't you partner with us and we'll work with some of the artists that are in the community. Who knows where they're coming from, but I'm sure they'll be glad to put up a mural with the themes that local community is interested in. And I'll guarantee you that more times than not, it won't get tagged again. It won't be vandalized. There's a real appreciation and kind of a code within the community, underground artists as well as above the ground artists, not to deface a piece of art or graffiti, regardless of whether it's been commissioned or not. So it is, I like how you termed the, can of worms. That's in part what drove me to this idea, because I like the edginess, I like the conflict, and I like how there's a possibility to turn some of these really talented artists that may not be above the ground into some opportunities that they can really get their work out there and get some promotion and some recognition.
I think that's a great initiative. When we're talking about the graffiti artists, I like the way that you described them, because in many ways they are very elusive. People are trying to find them for a number of different reasons. And I know here there are a couple of different graffiti artists, and you can see their work in different locations around the community, and it's kind of an urban area here. And so we have a lot of old buildings, a lot of unique structures, And we have some fascinating graffiti artists who are making a name for themselves on the street. They are highlighting their work on, a number of buildings, a number of signs, a number of locations. And it gets into this challenge between their unique art, appreciating that, yet appreciating the fact that, certain communities don't necessarily want anything on their buildings. How do you get from a person who doesn't want anything on their building to accepting the idea that there would be a mural there or something else?
Sure. Well, that's part of the challenge. So, if somebody doesn't want something on their building, then you're not going to we as Graffiti HeArt aren't going to commission anything on the building. But often it really has to have, especially if it's a building in a community where there's some resistance. If there's illegal graffiti or tagging or vandalism on a building, often we can try to share with them the benefits of partnering and designing a piece of work. Again, whether you call it a mural, street art, or a graffiti mural that owner or the community is interested in, that it will deter any further vandalism. And, it's not a 100% contract, but it's one of those, again, underground codes that more than likely will not happen. It really needs to have a draw from the community. And we've been very fortunate, since we're a grassroots organization that's made up of all volunteers. There's no paid staff in our organization. And just by some of the projects that we have been able to do through requests and the draw from different events and so forth, we've been fortunate that the community, whether it be community block clubs or school districts or the government or private companies or private residents, are pulling and drawing from us. So they're contacting us because they're seeing some of the great examples that we've been able to partner with, and they're seeing the outcome. They're seeing how the art has drawn people together in the community and has become gathering places rather than a place where you wouldn't want to walk alone. So I think just from a grassroots effort and the power of art, no matter what form, but because it's public art and it's got a little bit different creative spin through graffiti and muraling, and many of the artists that come and volunteer with our organization have graffiti experience, whether it's above or below the ground, and or underground, and we use that as a way to really get the eyes and ears and minds open in the community. It becomes kind of contagious once we get something going. People come, they get curious, they look at it, and the light bulb goes off. Typically I see that type of art somewhere where I shouldn't be, or I see it on a train, and now we're actually planning and designing and commissioning a really cool mural where all the artists and community are coming together and celebrating around it. So it's a really pretty powerful thing. Art in itself, and then just incorporating infusion of graffiti has just been really an interesting draw from the public.
I can see a couple of really good things about this, and that is, number one, you're getting to redirect the art, redirect the need to express. And in doing so, what you're able to do is achieve a better piece of art. And so instead of a lot of scribbling or X's and O's on a particular wall, what you're doing is you're putting together an area where they can actually do some artistic work. And in being able to do that, they have time to envision and create, and they come up with something much more beautiful than if they were just, in a hurry and they were doing squiggly lines. I can see that as a great advantage. But then I also, I have to wonder if part of the graffiti isn't necessarily evolving, part of the number of graffiti incidents isn't evolving from the lack of places to be creative. And what I mean is that, do people really have a place to express their artistic work? And is it because they don't have a place that they are resorting to painting on signs or in, people's buildings, those kind of things? What are your thoughts on that?
Tracy, that's a great point that you bring up and that you raised. Cleveland had for many years what they called a fun wall, and it was in a neighborhood in the Cleveland area, and youth and adult writers, as far as graffiti writers and artists, would learn there, would paint some of their pieces there, And it was, it wasn't something that was published. And this fun wall is no longer there. Just recently, probably in the last year, perhaps it's been removed. I don't know if it's because of development in the area or what, but just having a space to draw, to pull and draw artists to come out and be able to experiment, be able to create and express their art at all ages is something that definitely I'd like to see. And even in the Cleveland area, something that Graffiti HeArt hasn't put any pen or paper to try to plan something like that, but it's certainly something on our minds that if we can find space and get a grant and kind of reclaim it, but make it known that that's what it's for, and really provide that avenue and space for the youth and adults who want to express themselves. One of the experiences I had years ago, and it was actually in Europe and in Belgium, it was outside of Antwerp, and as we were walking through the city and we turned the corner, we were kind of out on the beaten path, and there was all of a sudden this park with this old brick wall that spanned about probably 200 feet, and it was L-shaped, and there were graffiti artists all throughout there, at all ages, mostly youth. But when we walked in, they knew we weren't we weren't there. We were new faces to them, but it was all good. They went back to their work, and the wall was just beautiful. You had just hundreds of different styles and types and art pieces from the community, and that was a place for them to go and to create. So you raise that point. I don't think it's given enough focus and enough merit, especially the fact that Cleveland had something similar to that and no longer does, but it's definitely something that I think adds value in the community. It helps the youth channel their creativity, their energy, their time working on something that's positive and where they can really practice and be with their friends and no harm, no foul. And at the same time, they're refining their skills as well. So it's definitely something that has missed now in Cleveland.
Tell me, how long have you been in operation, and how difficult was it to get the organization off the ground?
The organization, it was founded late in 2013, and again, it's just been at a pace that is manageable because all of our board members that are volunteers, some of them are full-time professional artists, some of them are career corporate America professionals. So I would say that what we tried to do was really get the foundation together, really align on what our mission was, what our purpose was, so that we can really have special focus and get some depth and bang out of the buck. So through 13, our board formed early 2014, and since then we had our first really significant opportunity that we were able to participate in, and that was in August of 2014. The Gay Games, International Gay Games, came to Cleveland, Ohio, and Graffiti HeArt was given the opportunity to be the only live art installation project in the Festival Village, which ran throughout the week in downtown Cleveland. We had approximately 15 different size murals that were built through volunteers and donations from a local developer. Some of these murals were the size of 8 feet by 16 feet, and we just put the call out to the artists, and we got close to 20 artists that came throughout the evenings, throughout the week of that week, and painted morning, noon, and night different graffiti murals on all of the canvases. We had thousands of people from all over the country and other parts of the world that came to participate in the games. They came to witness some of the live art installations. People brought their children. We had people of all ages, and we had some of the mural canvases that were built were there for the community to actually partake and join in, and paint was supplied so that any time of the afternoon and evening, as participants and visitors would come through Festival Village, they were able to pick up the paint and just do what they wanted on the canvases. We had one canvas that was 4 by 8, and every day we had a different color of paint where people would put their handprints from all over the world on this canvas. And so we have a multicolored handprint mural that we call Hands Across Our Community, which is now proudly displayed in the Cleveland LGBT Diversity Center. So this was really a really significant springboard for the Graffiti HeArt organization. We got our name out there. We were overwhelmed with all the generosity as far as volunteers and donors to help us get this project off the ground. And since then, we still have some of the murals warehoused for auction, but we were able to auction off 2 of our murals in different establishments, one in a local health club called the Tremont Athletic Club, where there's an 8x16 canvas done by artist Bob Peck, which is permanently displayed in their main lobby. And then another artist, Garrett Whiter, who his 8x16 mural of a landscape of the Cleveland city is now permanently displayed in Tank Manufacturing old warehouse building in the Cleveland Flats on the West Bank. So really excited about how this was able to get us going, get the name out there, and it's also actually helped other artists that maybe haven't been involved yet get more curious of how they can be involved and also be a part of some of the projects that helps give back to the community, both through revitalization efforts, educational efforts, and the scholarship funding that we strive for.
Let's talk a little bit about supplies. You said that you provided supplies for one of the projects.
Yes.
Is that something that you donate? How do you guys raise funds to keep supplies and those kind of things available to the artists, or do the artists bring their own?
Yeah, it really depends on the project. So what we do, Tracy, is that, initially we relied on our own donations, myself and others, just to get things going. So for example, for the Gay Games project at Festival Village, we brought supplies with some of the funding that we had through donations. However, most of the artists had their own supplies, and they used the Graffiti HeArt supplies as supplements. Many of the projects that we do will get a project cost, and more often than none, where there's a commission involved for the artist, we'll just include the cost of their supplies in that commission so that they can use the supplies that they want. They all have their own preferences. There's specific types of art spray and that they like to use. It's not typically the kind you get at Home Depot, although probably get more of the youth or inexperienced folks that might get the paint from there and practice or experiment. But the artists that are really experienced in this type of art form, that they have their own types of paint that they like to purchase and to use based on the application. So we include that typically in their commission. Once in a while, when we get to community events where there is no commission, we will offset some of the costs of their supplies, if not all of them, depending on the situation. And the art supplies, while they're costly, they're not significant. So that's really the smallest aspect of it. I think their actual creative art is more valuable and in some cases priceless if you look at different graffiti artists around the world that have really made a name for themselves.
Thank you so much for tuning in to KABF 88.3 FM. You're listening to the Health and Wellness Program. I'm your host, Tracy Crain. My guest tonight is Tommy Paul. She is the founder of an organization called Graffiti HeArt. We'll be right back. You're listening to KABF 88.3 FM, Little Rock.
The big question in education today is, why are the arts important? Art teaches us to be creative. It allows us to create something new, something tangible and exciting. Art opens us up to a world of possibilities where reality fails to do so. Art challenges us to think outside of the box. It makes us unsatisfied with the normal in order to look for new possibilities. Art makes us problem solvers. Art connects us to the past. Throughout history, society has created art to capture a moment in time. Art gives us the ability to study who we were in order to see what we will become. Art allows us to explore different cultures, worldviews, and beliefs. It transcends geographical frameworks. Art is a profound connection among human beings all over the world. So why is art important? Simply, art is what makes us human.
but I see your true colors shining through. I see your true colors, and that's why I love you. So don't be afraid to let them show your true colors. True colors are beautiful like a rainbow. Show me a smile then. Don't be unhappy. Can remember when I bless all you love. If this world makes you crazy and you take it all you can, then you call me up, because you know I'll be there, and I'll see your true colors shining through. I'll see your true colors, and that's why I love you. So don't be afraid to let us show your true colors. Your true colors are beautiful like a rainbow. Can't remember when I last saw you laugh. If this world makes you crazy, you take it all you can bear. You call me up, because you know I'll be there, and I'll see your true colors shining through. I'll see your true colors, and that's why I love you. So don't be afraid to let it show your true colors. True colors, true colors are shining through. I see your true colors, and that's why I love you. So don't be afraid to let them show your true colors. True colors are beautiful like a rainbow. Get a job.
Look, it's a giraffe.
I don't see it.
The less art kids get, the more it shows. Are yours getting enough? Art. Ask for more. AmericansForTheArts.org.
Welcome back to the program. This is Tracy Crain. My guest tonight is Stami Paul. She is the founder of Graffiti HeArt. Hi, Stami. I have read that one of the things that often triggers graffiti is that the artist feels a connection with a certain area, and that's one of the reasons that they mark it. They mark it because it feels like home to them, you might say. It feels like their territory. They spend a lot of time there, or there's some kind of connection that they make with it, and that often inspires the writing on the wall there. And so when I think about graffiti artists doing that, typically if they have to mark some place as their own, they don't necessarily have a place that belongs to them. You know, for some reason, they don't have the space that they need to do what they need. How does this program sort of address those kind of needs?
Yeah, so the Graffiti HeArt organization, I don't think we directly address that. It's really not built in the core purpose of our program, but indirectly what we do is we try to provide some awareness to the public, to the community, that graffiti actually can be something that you can do that is legal, that is something that you can express yourself through certain types of projects that are welcome and that are approved and planned for. So directly we don't address how to tap into the graffiti artists that may write their mark or tag a building or a wall. And we try, at least that's not part of our core mission. It's really about graffiti art as an art form, as something that has positive impact to the community, to people spiritually and emotionally, and to really help pave the way that you can have a career, you can have a career path, you can actually take your creative energy and apply it in a way that can actually give back to the community, and you can actually have a nice career with it. And that's why we tie our program to the scholarship funding through the Cleveland Institute of Art for the pre-college program to help give opportunities and bring awareness to our youth that there are actually avenues where you can take your creative energy and creative juices and apply them in a way that you can be, formally trained and then also have opportunities to apply their artwork in ways that they don't have to do underground or tagging. Now, I would say that some of the artists that have volunteered, some have been formally educated, some have been somewhat formally educated, and others have not been formally educated. And so it just goes to wonder how they've become so talented at, they've got to practice somewhere. So, not to say that it's been done illegally, but, that's not our mission necessarily to address the quote unquote vandals out in society, but it's really more or less to provide a pathway for those who want to engage in some of these more positive planned and commission type of projects.
It's a very interesting approach because you have a lot of different missions there. When I say a lot of different missions, there is a rehabilitative sense to what you're doing. And it's really neat because what you're trying to do is reach out to the artist and explain to them or offer them opportunities to expand on their art or to find other avenues for their art. And what
Absolutely.
At the same time, you're also reaching out to the community and you're trying to get them to embrace graffiti as the art that it is. That it's not necessarily something that is vandalism or something that is illegal. You're trying to bring the two to a meeting ground, and in doing so, providing unique opportunities actually to both of them. So it is a very political sort of stand that you've got, but it's political in the best of ways. And so I really love that about what you're doing. Tell me a little bit about the scholarship program.
Absolutely. This is what, at the end of the day, makes us gauge and measure how successful our organization is being. It's how many young adults and youth are we tapping into and making a difference in their lives, whether it's through bringing them into opportunities where they can be recognized based on some really great artwork that they've been commissioned to do, or whether it's because they've got an opportunity to now get some formal training in the arts where they're interested and engaged and now being able to learn in a way that can hopefully build additional pathways to them in their future. So what we've done as Graffiti HeArt, initially as part of our youth, partnered with the Cleveland Institute of Art, which is just a wonderful fine arts college, and we are their only pre-college art scholarship program through Graffiti HeArt, and they have a 2-week college program in the summer. It's called pre-college because it is for typically the youth in junior and high school that aren't yet ready to go to college. However, they go through this 2-week program. They touch on all aspects of different forms of art, and through that program, they come out with really a deep appreciation and some deep training actually and exposure to the different types of art forms. The students that we select, we've had 1 year since our 2.5-year tenure. Last summer, we sent 2 youth through the scholarship program, and they get full room and board, so they're actually on campus for the 2 weeks. And we went through, I think it was approximately 48 to 50 applications that we received just in our very first year of doing the scholarship. the school, Cleveland Institute of Art, had somewhere between 100 and 150 applications, and out of those, there were approximately 48 that were applying for the Graffiti HeArt Scholarship. So we were thrilled. Spent many, many hours with Cleveland Institute of Art, kind of walking through on an anonymous basis the students' portfolios, and we went through them over and over and over because it was such a difficult decision from our board members to try to determine which students would be the recipients of our 2 openings last summer. And it was just an exhilarating experience, and we're just really proud of that program and of our ability to partner with Cleveland Institute of Art. The success rate of students that go through that program is very significant in that students that go through the pre-college program will typically move on to the full college program once they graduate from high school. So we feel that this is a really good early program to capture the hearts and minds and talents of the students when they're young and impressionable, and helping them make decisions early on in their academic life of art, and we're really proud of it. This year, 2016, our minimum goal is to double that to at least 4 scholarships this summer, so 4 students. And we do take into account financial aspects of the youth that we're selecting, and that's part of the decision-making that we evaluate. So the underserved youth is who we're trying to tap into, and the more, the better. So I think while we have 4 as our minimum goal, my hope is that we exceed that by far this year.
Talk to me about the different types of graffiti. I think the scholarship program is wonderful, and I bet that is going to continue to expand for you because it is such a wonderful initiative. Tell me a little bit about the labeling of graffiti art. I know that it's not just referred to as graffiti. What are the different kinds?
Well, the different kinds, I mean, there's wheat pasting. Wheat pasting is typically, it's kind of like when you used to do wallpaper, similar to that. Wheat pasting is taking a form of art that the artist has designed themselves on paper or some other type of canvas material, and they affix it to a wall or another canvas. Wheat paste, and so that's one form. There's graffiti writing, and that can be done in different types of applications with spray paint or with the pens that you mentioned earlier. You know, there's just paint and brush, acrylic, and other type of graffiti painting and mural painting, and then what we're so familiar with in at least modern day is the aerosol paint, which is at least one of my favorites, and we've got a couple aerosol graffiti murals in our house, in our home in Cleveland. So that's kind of when it all started, is that affinity to that type. You know, there's old school, there's new modern techniques. There's another form that's stenciling, and you'll see some of that with many artists, including, you know, world-renowned Banksy, who's an underground artist that's often in the news as the law enforcement continue to try to catch him. But I'm not an artist by trade, but I've learned this just through being a hobbyist and really loving the work that I see through my travels and in our local community. So, who is the most famous graffiti artist? Who would you say has well, I would say it probably is Banksy. I think he's from the UK, from Britain, I believe, and you know, some of his work, some of his pieces have gone for $500,000 in auctions, and probably more at this point. But his pieces, you know, I've never seen a picture per se. So the big stigma with him too is that he'll show up, he'll do some really cool social or political pieces somewhere, and no one knows who he is. No one has spotted him, but his work has really gone viral over the past 5 years, 10 years, and he's become probably the biggest in the world. But like I said, his pieces, you know, have gone for an enormous amount of money. One time, I think there was a time about 2 years ago or so when he had selling some pieces in New York City, and no one knew they were Banksy. And he was selling them for like $60 a piece, and then he disappeared. And then when people realized that these were Banksy pieces, you know, they're priceless. It's just like a Van Gogh. Not everyone would agree, but you know, art is art. It's the eye of the beholder, and so it's pretty magnificent.
How did you get started in this? What is the connection for you?
I work in corporate. That's my. That's how I pay my bills, but you know, the balance in work and life and how how to kind of tap into my own creative juices. And through the travels that I've been fortunate to have in my career, traveling in different parts of the world, it was really something that just struck me as just beautiful experiences with the different art forms, whether I was in Rome or whether I was in Greece or whether I was in Argentina, China, anywhere that I've visited. One constant theme has been the art form of graffiti. And it just kind of came to me that we have an urban home in Cleveland, and I wanted to bring and color one of our walls that was bland, and I wanted to bring the outside urban feel in artists. And that's what really prompted me to get more and more interested in this challenge, was that, well, how do you find a graffiti artist? People said, oh, I know some guy, or I know some girl, but it was really difficult to tap in and find them. And finally, I contacted an artist in New York City who I was going to hire, and he actually, I hired him, but he actually commissioned an artist that was from Cleveland, and that was my first kind of experience in contact with an artist in Cleveland. And through that, I just took a lot of time in social media and other forms of networking to try to meet some artists. I've had some great friends in the community that are artists that have put me in touch with others. And one day on a plane, I was just thinking, how do I channel this into something that can be something fun and that can give back to the community? And I sketched some names and came up with Graffiti HeArt and kind of came up with some sketches around what the logo can be like. I worked with an artist to help design a logo and just started networking with people, getting their ideas about my vision and getting their response and reaction to my vision. And one thing led to another, and it just kind of took off from there. So it's something that definitely, when I'm not at work and when I turn things off, this is something that I still have capacity for, because it's a whole different channel of energy that I'm able to use. So I've been very fortunate. Our board and artists have been great to work with, and you really meet some really cool people, some great people that are very selfless and that will do whatever they can when they believe in the cause. And it's been really easy to tap into people. So that's the story.
It's a fascinating story at that. So you have traveled to different locations all
Yes.
across the world, and you've seen an amazing array of graffiti in different places. Has there been any difference in the graffiti that you've seen, differences in style, differences in colors, differences in approach?
Not really. I think, graffiti is different as it is. It's just, it's whatever that artist wants to create. It's whatever his or her style happens to be. Not one piece is ever the same. And I think that's really what initially was so intriguing to me, is that no matter where I went, the language is different, the cultures are different, the buildings are different, the highways, the cars, and the art form. You wouldn't know what country you were in if they showed, if you were just to look at the art form, you wouldn't be able to tell that you were in a different country. You see pictures of it, you would just say, I don't know if it's from a city, if it's from New York, if it's from London. And I think that was one of the things that intrigued me, that it's just such a common theme, but so diverse in nature and in the expression of the artist. So I really probably couldn't give any unique differences for you as far as that, that goes.
What about routines? Do you see a lot of that, or do you see a lot of lettering?
I think it's a mix. Often you'll see some graffiti where it's a mix of a certain word that either the artist goes by, or a word that has to do with whatever the expression is, that the statement that they're trying to make. And whether it's on trains or other types of canvases, it just depends. In some of the work that we've done both words as well as illustrations with that. So typically I see both. You'll see a lot of words in graffiti, as you see graffiti in different parts of the world, but often you'll also see a mix of some types of designs or illustrations that go along with it. Artists often will have their own shtick. So, whether it's shapes or animals or, certain words or what have you, whether it's birds or crosses or what have you, sometimes they'll have their own shtick that just is a part of who they are. It's just kind of their branding.
When you go out into the community there around Cleveland and surrounding areas, do you ever go into maybe a an older part of the community, or one that doesn't really have as much commerce going on as what it used to? And do you ever just kind of look at it and say, you know, I can really see this trend coming, and it's going to be a place that, you know, people utilize for their art? Do you ever like pinpoint places and then try to come up with solutions for that? Is that something that you're looking at doing, or?
Yeah, it's definitely something that I have interest in. We have parts of East Cleveland that are really oppressed, and I think that there's a definite opportunity to, in the future, we haven't done anything yet, but in the future, to work with a community like that where you can tap into some of the residents and government to see, is there a location where we can kind of start to help bring the community together? And you bring it together through, you know, community outreach, and you bring it together through involving the community and identifying possible mural location and a mural where they can participate in it, and where they can then gather with time. Once the mural's up, it becomes a whole revitalized area that brings light and beauty and joy into their area. And we've seen it happen not through our organization, but other organizations, other communities and block clubs that have turned their alleyways and turned parts of their community into a place that was a dumping ground and vandalized, and now it's clean and it's colorful and it's their gathering place. So we've seen that happen. We are working with one community in Cleveland on a project called Our Alleys Revitalized. And the community there is very involved. They're involved in not only the mural location, but also the design of the mural. We have artists involved, and we're hoping that this spring or summer we're going to get our first mural up on a building that's been identified. So that's definitely a piece of, or an element of what we like to do, because in bringing art into any space, whether it's a community space or in your home, it definitely changes the landscape. It touches the hearts of the people in that community, and it dissuades and really prevents any future dumping and so forth. So the community, basically, they take back the community, the residents, and they really put their own mark on it. So it's kind of the reverse, where, you know, people may say, well, the vandals put their mark with their tag. Well, the community kind of does the same thing, only in a way that's embraced and commissioned or approved and so forth. So it's all good stuff. It's definitely one of the pathways that we take as an organization.
Thank you so much. You've been tuned in to KABF 88.3 FM Little Rock. Tommy, thank you so much for being on the program. I think what you're doing is wonderful. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. Thank you. It was really great to have the opportunity to talk to you and your audience. I'm hoping that everyone that's interested in what we're doing will follow us at www.graffitiheart.org, and just looking forward to more projects and more give back to the community.
What is that website one more time?
It's www.graffitiheart.org.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, Tracy.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, it's not far down to paradise. At least it's not for me. And if the wind is right, you can sail away and find tranquility. All the canvas can do miracles. Just you wait and see. Then you believe me. It's not far to Never Never Land. A reason to pretend. And if the wind is right, you can find the joy of innocence again. All the canvas can do miracles. Just you wait and see. Believe me. Sailing takes me away to where I've always heard it could be. Just a dream in the wind to carry me. Soon I will be free. Well, it's not far back to sanity. At least it's not for me. And if the wind is right, you can sail away and find serenity. Oh, the canvas can do miracles. Just you wait and see, then you believe me. Sailing takes me away to where I've always heard it could be. Just a dream in the wind to carry me, and soon I will be free.
You're listening to KABF.